Do you ever feel like you're simply meant to live a life of struggle? Like some people were born on Easy Street, and I'm over here laying the path to my manifestation one brick at a time. I used to literally tell people, I don't gamble. I know I'm meant to work for a living. It can feel hopeless and deeply unfair, and really, oftentimes, it feels like it's not really a mindset issue, it's just straight facts. Or so it seems. Because what if the difference between living a life of struggle and living a life of ease and synchronicity has nothing to do with circumstances at all? Most people do not have a manifestation problem. They have an identity self definition problem. They let circumstances tell them who they're allowed to be. And right now, in this video, we're going to stop doing that. Hi, my name is Allison, and I am here to help you stop identifying with struggle so that you can manifest the reality you want to experience. Okay, I want you to imagine you're having a conversation with your grumpy old man neighbor, and he says something like, well, back in my day, we used to have to walk a mile to school. Back in my day, we didn't have fancy cell phones. You know the conversation. What is this grumpy old man saying when he says things like that? Well, he's telling you that he identifies life with struggle. He is telling you that he holds an identity that life should be hard. It's not unusual for life to be hard. He probably even says something like, struggle builds character. He believes that difficulty in life is not only normal, it's proper. And because he believes that, hardship is to be expected. Now, let's contrast that with all of those beautiful, lucky people living their charmed lives. The people who seemingly never have to worry about money. Life is like a wide open door to success. They find support around every corner. But those things do not come to them because they're special. They come to them because, like that grumpy old man, they assume that's how their life should be. They expect to receive support for things to always work out. They think it's natural to have access to resources, to live amongst abundance. So they move through their life on that premise, unconsciously, mostly, unaware of it. Now, you probably fall somewhere in the middle. Maybe in some areas of your life, love feels easy, but money feels hard. Maybe a good family life is normal, but success in career is difficult. Maybe you believe happiness is a natural reward after enough struggle first. Maybe you have an easy time writing your video script, but when you sit down to film it, your neighbor decides to run their leaf blower. See, the real battle is not really with our outer circumstances. It is with the rules and expectations that we unconsciously carry inside that keep saying, this part of my life is difficult, has always been difficult, should always be difficult. Struggle has been learned through the meanings we've put on past experiences. That is true. And since that is true, it means that ease can also be learned through new definitions and meanings you choose now, which means the first thing to question is not the circumstances themselves, but the story your senses keep trying to tell you about the circumstances. For example, we are not changing the dead-end job circumstance by quitting today. We are changing the meaning we've assigned that the dead-end job means it's hard to receive abundance. My favorite Neville Goddard takeaway: deny the evidence of the senses and assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But what happens when the evidence of our senses is coming from our own self-identity? It's like that horror movie meme. The call is coming from in the house. And how do we deny that? Neville? Care to answer? Well, maybe the better question is, what happens when an assumption is held for ease and abundance meets an identity that identifies with hard work, struggle, and a life that seems destined to be difficult? Well, we need to create new definitions for that identity to hold. Nothing else needs to change to do that. Not the physical work, not the long work shifts, nor the late nights with a screaming baby and no help, not the car that won't start, not the parents who need so much time and attention, not the angry, jerky boss. None of that evidence of our senses changes for now. That's not our work. What has to change is the idea that any of that contradicts the assumption we hold for our new and desired reality. What has to change is the idea that any of that contradicts our imaginal act. The moment you give new meaning that is not related to struggle for your current circumstances stop being proof that you don't have or can't have your desired reality. When you know what you want, you must assume that you have it. Then you close your mind against all that denies the reality of your assumption. What Neville describes about the imaginal act is to create an inner scene, an event, a short moment that would naturally happen if your desire were already fulfilled. A scene that implies it's done. You are not watching this like a movie. You're in it. You're hearing the congratulations. You're seeing the ring on your finger. You're counting the money. Now, the point is not the scene itself. The point is that it helps the new reality become familiar in your internal space, in your nervous system, and your subconscious. We know that imagination is central to reality creation. Imagination is how we access our higher states of consciousness. It's where we get our manifesting powers, if you will. Think of using your imagination like launching a hot air balloon. You rise above old conditions, entering expansive territory of our higher consciousness, and feel yourself being carried by the assumption of the wish fulfilled. And now take note. How do people travel in a hot air balloon? They're not flying. They're not dangling from it. They're sitting in a basket, in a container, inside a new reality box, which I discussed at length in my last video. All of which to say, yes, we rise up, we expand in vibration and our ability to receive. But what mechanisms do we have in place to keep us from falling out of it? Because old patterns of thinking and habits, identifying with the old reality, those things aren't washed away just because we had a powerful imaginal act. So our real work here is to identify what helps hold you in your imaginal act, in continuing to identify with it. What helps you close your mind against everything that tries to deny the reality of your assumption? Well, let's get into that now. How do we actually contain ourselves in our assumption basket, in our imaginal act, in our everyday 24/7 life? Well, we have to be willing to take the time to rewrite our old thoughts. Imaginal act first. Establish the assumption and the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And then we catch ourselves in our old habitual thought patterns that try to contradict it. The number one reason why people don't manifest truly changed realities is because they want that new thing but they are unwilling to become the type of person for whom that thing is totally natural, because they keep climbing out of their assumption basket and dealing with the grind of life in the old ways that align with the old reality. And in order to close our mind to anything that denies our assumption, we either change the thought or we change the meaning. For example, this is hard becomes no, this is only a moment. This is easy when I consider the alternative. Okay, that's changing the thought. Or the meaning, the definition can be, I am good at this. Other people might say this is hard, but I think it's a good opportunity. I like to stretch myself. I like seeing how capable I am. This is totally manageable for me. Or it could even be, this isn't difficult. I'm just practiced at calling it difficult. This is how struggle gets redefined in real time. Instead of asking, what does this problem mean about me? You ask, what do I decide this means within my assumption, in my new assumption basket? For example, let's take a person who has an imaginal act around abundance, easily experiencing it. So their imaginal act might be something like imagining going to the grocery store and picking out everything they want and then going and paying for it without even considering the total. Okay, now the energy is created, the reality assumed. What does this mean now for how they will experience life going forward? It means that whatever happens is not evidence of anything other than confirming their assumption. So, for example, a large unexpected bill is not evidence of lack or struggle. It is an opportunity to rewrite the meaning of the bill and reconfirm the commitment to the assumption. Or this person might find a low bank account balance and a car that needs a lot of gas. This is not proof that abundance is unavailable. It is just proof that the external reality has not caught up with the internal reality. And because we know that, we do not get out of our assumption basket to deal with it. And because we know that, we don't get out of our assumption basket to shake our fists at the bank account balance. It is simply a cost that gets paid, it's an issue that gets dealt with, and means nothing about our desired reality. You know, when we see leaves falling from a tree, we don't assume the tree is dying. Shedding leaves is simply part of the life cycle. Can we assume that the situations and conditions we're experiencing now are simply a season in our life cycle, but carry no other meaning about how we see ourselves or what's possible? Events happen, situations occur, and instead of internalizing them as negative, we let them just fall to the floor. They just happen and are meaningless to our identity. It's a form of detachment. I place myself in this basket now. I choose my assumption now. I expect a life that is more supported and easy. That is how I identify. And when the outside world invites me to an event or a circumstance that does not seem to line up with my assumption, I can still participate in it. I am not exempt from life, but I do not call it struggle. I do not call it lack. There is no barrier for me to live in the end. It is simply an action that needs to be taken, but it gets no identity from me. I keep myself in my desired reality basket where I belong, and you keep yourself in yours. Clear on the identity boundaries that align you with the reality you belong in. And if you want more help with identity shifts like this, more practical ways to hold yourself in your desired reality, you might consider joining my Manifest Mail Club, where I send you powerful letters in the mail designed to strengthen your self-concept and remind you of who you're becoming every time you open them. I hope that this video was valuable to you, and I look forward to bringing you more. Thank you.